Oh, is this just audio? How you doing?
I'm doing good, and yes, it is.
Okay, just audio. Let's get rid of my audio then. Video.
Yeah. Okay.
How you doing? What's your name?
My name's Josh Runquist.
Hey, Josh Runquist. Tommy. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
My pleasure.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's great to be able to talk to you. And it's been a very busy year on your end. And it's great to see that's going to be continuing on in just a couple days now, being able to go back on tour with the Dead Daisies.
Yeah, how about it?
Oh, it's so cool to see that. So I'm glad we're at the spot now where we can get some live shows back again, and I hope it continues to stay that way because live music is so important, and I'm glad to see that you guys are taking that trek to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean it's a great thing. Playing music is an awesome thing, and going to watch music is an awesome thing. So it's a little bit of normalcy in a time of uncertainty. So it's cool, man.
Yeah, it really is. And of course, being able to play with a band like the Dead Daisies, who has had an incredible track record of amazing musicians a part of it, and just seeing the lineup that it's at right now, it feels like it's in top form for everyone that's involved. I mean, seeing you being able to join up with the band and being able to play the songs, I mean, that's just awesome to see that.
Cool.
So, with that in mind, I mean, obviously with being able to join back up with the band again here in 2021, I mean, what's it like to be able to learn the songs and being able to work with a group like the Dead Daisies?
It's always a pleasure when you get to play with good musicians playing good music. So it's a pleasure.
Oh, yeah. And, again, it's just like when you're playing good music and you're working with good musicians, I mean, whether you're recording, whether you're going out on tour, whatever the case is, I mean, when you get to have those great experiences, I mean, that's just the best feeling.
I agree with you.
So thinking about that as well, too, I mean, not too long ago, there was a short film that came out for the band and being able to show in that live form. I mean, what was it like to be able to record that?
I think you're referring to some little video they made. I mean, I guess they just put some footage together. So it wasn't really a creative thing on my end. It was just, you're just kind of walking around or playing or doing what you're doing. And then they slosh it together. So it came out kind of cool. So, but to me, it wasn't, you're just there's a camera there and you just go about your business.
Yeah, and that's such a good way to go about it too. I mean, whether you're recording or you're just being able to play in front of a crowd, I mean, being able to have that same atmosphere and play like you are being recorded and being seen by the world, no matter what kind of stage that you're on, it's important to have that kind of presence behind you.
Well, I guess so. I think there's a little too much filming and too much thinking about being filmed for me nowadays because music, even if it's being filmed, that doesn't mean that was the way that it really came across. When you're in a room and you're seeing and you're feeling the music, that's not necessarily always translated that way to tape. Meaning that just a live experience is supposed to be felt in the room. And that's the most important thing to me is, playing for the people that are actually there. I don't really play for a camera or for a recording. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and that's what I meant more is just like being able to play like the whole world is watching and they're all watching right in front of you from the audience perspective. I mean, being able to have every show like that, like you are doing a live show, no matter the circumstance. Yeah, that's definitely the way to go about it.
But there's only one way, and that's go for it.
Absolutely.
Point being, I think with all this internet stuff now, musicians are more worried about their performance on a video or a tape versus than the actual on stage performance. That's kind of my point, especially for young drummers and stuff like that. I see all these drummers making their videos and putting them on their whatever, and it's all about that. And what happens when you go try to play for a band and you have to be in the moment? That's a whole different ball game. That's a whole separate set of skills.
It really is. I mean, there's a huge difference between being able to play by yourself or playing to a track, rather compared to being able to play with actual musicians and being able to play in that that live setting, and especially with the latter, I mean, you have that nailed down. Like, no matter who you work with, anytime I've ever seen live work, anytime I've heard you record it, I mean, it always feels like you know what to do for the songs, and that's just so important to be able to capture those moments. Whether it's in the recording sense, whether it's just being at a live show, just knowing what to do for each song is so important.
Yeah, I mean, you got to know you should play for the music, but you also have to play for the show, meaning leading a band and leading musicians. Because the one guy, when things go wrong, it's up to the drummer to make them go right. So that's a very important skill that needn't not be forgotten for drummers. And that's kind of, I was getting at if you're more concerned about playing for a video than learning your craft when it comes on stage, you're going to be missing out when it comes to playing with the big boys. So just, learning to play a gig is very important, at least where I come from. That's probably more important than playing the drums. It's learning how to play a gig.
And thinking about that as well too, I mean, especially with the resume that you have, I mean, how is that from like situation to situation? I mean, obviously working with different bands, different musicians, I mean, what is that like for you to be able to learn how to play for each particular kind of gig?
What is it like? How so? It kind of all melds together to me, to be honest with you. It's the same approach. You're trying to learn the music to the best of your ability, but more so than just learning the music, you want to dig and get into the music and find out what makes that music special and try to bring the emotion that the artist you're working for wants.
Oh, that's a really good way to look at it. And thinking about that as well too. I mean, obviously with being able to play with different kinds of drum setups. I mean, how particular are you when it comes to like being able to go from different kinds of stages and different bands with your drum set, with your drum setup? Like, how do you choose for like each band that you're playing with?
I wear a drum set out and I get another one. That's all there is to it. It's just a tool to me. I'm not too picky.
Yeah, and that
I've played the worst drums, I've played the best drums, and you got to know how to just make whatever your tool is at the time work. That
yeah,
being
that's
said, I love the drums that I play, and right now I'm playing Sonar drums, seeing we're talking drums, and they're great. But that's you got to be able to go up on a house kit once in a while, and you can't get too picky about things because every situation is different.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, whether you're playing a four-piece kit, whether you're playing a gigantic double bass kit, I mean, if you're able to use the tools that you have and being able to work with any kind of situation that you have, I mean, that really shows the expertise of what you're able to do when you can translate between any kits or any cymbals that you have to make sure that you can play for the best possible gig that you can.
I mean, it's just sticks and drums. That's all there is. You're just hitting some things and it comes down to your beat and your feel. And the right combination of drums and cymbals can only enhance that. But having the right drums and right cymbals, that is not going to make you sound any better if you don't have the right groove and feel.
Yeah, and that's what I've always appreciated about your style as well too. I mean, I always hear the groove when you're playing, and it's just such a great thing to be able to hear that real live groove and that real live situation that you're always able to pull off.
Thank you. Everybody has a different idea of what groove is. A lot of people associate groove with playing behind the beat. For some reason, I never saw it that way. Even when I listen to the Rolling Stones, which everybody goes, oh, play more laid back like the Rolling Stones. When I listen to some of it, it's not all laid back. And there's some real on top pushed rock and roll parts and drumming, and sometimes being hyper and sometimes playing too fast means it's grooving to me. So it's more of an energy and momentum and pulse and cadence and vibe that is important in drumming to me. This is my personal thing. I want music to be exciting and have emotion, and that doesn't necessarily always mean playing behind the beat to be groovy. So there's so many different ways to look at it, and that doesn't mean playing loud or it doesn't mean playing soft. It means getting the right vibe at the right time and letting the music dictate where you're going to go with it. And
Oh,
that's the cool thing about rock and roll, you know.
yeah, that's so true. I mean, and especially in that live setting too. I mean, sometimes the songs are just going to feel better to be able to play it a little faster one night, maybe a little slower one night. You know, it's just it all depends on what's going on with the atmosphere of what's going on, what the band is feeling at the time, the energy from the crowd, and yeah, I mean, being able to have those different tempos, the different dynamics. I mean, there's so many things that can go into it, but as long as you have that emotional playing that's going on behind it and yeah, I mean, it can just make for such a great time.
You got it, Josh.
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, thinking about that as well too. I mean, obviously being able to go out from town to town, everything that's hopefully going to continue to stay happening with this Dead Daisies tour. Do you have anything else planned after this tour?
No, there's not much going on. I mean, you never know what tomorrow's going to bring in the music business. So, um, I don't think too far ahead. I just whatever's coming up, I'm gearing up for that, and I take it as it comes.
Yeah, and yeah, that's so true. I mean, especially with the last couple of years,
But that's
you never
life.
know
It's not just music either. That's life, you know.
Oh yeah, and especially within the last couple of years, I mean, you never know what's going to happen in life, and the life of a musician or whatever is going to happen. I mean, you know, just being available, being able to again play with the musicians that you want to be able to play with, play the music that you want to be able to play with. As long as you can live in that moment, that's a great way to go about it.
Yeah.
And thinking about that as well too, you know, earlier this year you were able to release an amazing album of your own work, and it was really cool to see uh, what you can do when you're writing the music and you're focusing on that groove and everything that's going on. I mean, when it came to your solo work, I mean, it was just really cool to see your side of your songwriting.
Hey, thanks. It wasn't really a solo work. It was just a little kind of record that I put together. I guess it was, you know, I'd never written a tune or done anything like that. And I had all this downtime and nobody was doing anything. And somebody said, "You want to make a record?" And I go, you know, why not? I never wanted to before. So it was just a little experiment because I had so much free time. And I go, why not? I'll just see if I can do it. And I'm glad I took the little jump to see if I could do it, and I was happy with how it came out.
Yeah, and you know, it's amazing how that can work out too. I mean, you know, it's just like when you start off, and you know, when you are as a drummer, and you know, you don't necessarily have the wants and needs to be able to write your own music, but then all of a sudden you have an album's worth of material that you have on your hands, and you're able to look back and realize that you created that, and you know, whether that's a continuing trend or it was the one time that that's ever going to happen. It was awesome to see that you were able to have that established.
Yeah, it's something that I didn't know I could do, and I did it. And whatever that means, just like you said, I could do another one. I may never do another one. Whatever happens, happens. But I'm not looking to be a solo artist, put it that way.
Oh yeah, I mean with how in demand you are, and you know, with the top talent that you're able to work with. I mean, I imagine if you ever get that downtime again and you have some songs, I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but you know, until then, I mean, being able to sit behind the kit with such amazing artists and being able to go out on tour and you know record when you get the possibility when you're in the band, you know, it's just like it's great to see that you are able to adapt to all these different kinds of situations, whether you're writing your own songs, whether you're recording for someone else, whether you're playing together on stage. I mean, it's so important as a musician to be able to learn all of those crafts.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to learn music, you know, and that's whatever that means for you, you know, because everybody has a different take on what good is. You know, music is not it's not defined by a score at the end of a game. It's a very you know, it's like, do you like this food? Well, I love this food. Well, I don't. You know, music is very much that. You know, what I like, a lot of other people don't like. So you need, in order for it to work to its fullest, you need to be around the same kind of people, at least that are going in the same direction, you know. And sometimes great bands have two people that push and pull each other, but that still works, but they end up where they both want to be. So tension could be good in music, but you know, it's just such a like I said, there's not a score at the end of it to say, oh, this is what's good and this is what's not good. Because I've noticed what I think is great, a lot of people don't think is great. And I'm like, well, you're out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about. So, definition of what great is or what great drumming is, it's kind of like, well, it is art. It's like a painting. Somebody may see something beautiful and I may just see a mess on the wall. That's what's cool about it.
Oh yeah, and everything when it comes to that is so subjective. And just like you said, at the end of the day, I mean, it's about your personal preference. And are you happy with what you're listening to? Are you happy with what you're playing? Are you happy working with who you're working with? And I think that's what's so much more important. And if you can get an audience behind that as well, too, I mean, that's just a bonus.
Definitely. Are you a
And
drummer, John?
yes, I am.
All right, cool.
Oh yeah, and just again, it's just like it's very inspiring whenever I've been able to see you play, whether it's live or seeing recordings or whatever the case is, and just like seeing how you do bring that stage atmosphere along with it, and just showing that you can have all the tools that you want to on stage, or as many or as few tools as you need to, but just being able to bring that atmosphere and that live setting um, atmosphere along with it. And yeah, I mean, just like every time I've ever seen you play, you're able to bring it. And, it's just like some songs sound like they're very hard to be able to play. Other ones, it seems like they were meant for you to be able to play on. It's just like, it's great to see, again, that adaptation that you're able to accomplish.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure thing. And thinking about that as well too. I mean, when you are learning those songs, I mean, how do you approach like being able to learn the songs when you're learning them for the first time?
You listen to them and you want to dig into them. But listening is the key, and not just hearing, but listening and hearing what's actually making the song. A lot of guys, oh, I know the song, and they learn the beat or the part, but they don't learn how the part was executed. It's two different things. You gotta, oh, I could play Back in Black, and then it just doesn't sound like Back in Black. There was a thing that Phil Rudd had, so you want to find out that thing. You gotta dig and find out what is that thing. That's the hard part. What's the essence that makes it? So I try to find that when I'm learning a song, because each song has its own heartbeat.
Yeah, and that is so important too. And thinking about that as well too. I mean, obviously, when you're able to,
Like right now, okay, so Charlie Watts unfortunately passed away. So Steve Jordan has to go. I'm going to be playing for the Rolling Stones now. I have to dig in, which I'm sure he already has, of course, but you're going to see him go on stage, and hopefully, yeah, they're going to go Steve Jordan's there, but it's still going to sound like the Rolling Stones. That's going to be his goal. I guarantee it, because that's what people want. They want to go see the Rolling Stones and have those memories. And Charlie Watts, talk about a sound, talk about things that were unto himself, his little hi-hat things. Of course, he played not on the 2 and 4 and the hi-hat, but there was so much more. His fills that he did, and the way he hit the cymbals and the way he hit the hi-hats. And there's a lot of little tricks you got to pick up on in order to do that gig justice. And I don't think there's a better guy to do it than Steve Jordan. So he's going to have to go deep to find the essence of what makes that music great. And I'm sure he's going to do a fabulous job.
oh yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, with his resume as well, I mean, he's been able to play with so many great musicians like yourself. I mean, like with his kind of resume, I think he's really going to be able to pull off that
Yeah, well,
style.
let's use the term experience, because it's not really resume. It's not who you've played with. It's the experiences that you've taken from playing from great. And I know you mean it that way, but experience is the key. And just because you've played with great people doesn't mean you're going to do a great job coming up. You always have to put the work in. Steve Jordan, he's played with 8 million awesome people, but he's still going to have to sit down with his drums and do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thinking about that as well too. I mean, when it comes into your work and like really finding those the articulation or the style or whatever it is that you're trying to replicate to be able to really make the songs for whatever band that you're playing in. Has there been like any examples where it was challenging for you, or
Well,
are you just able to listen? Or
it's all challenging. It's a big challenge. But the Sabbath thing, when I got to play with those guys, that was Bill Ward had such an unorthodox way of playing that was a deeper level of that. Kind of like a Charlie Watts has a thing. There's not many drummers that they play at Charlie Watts, but they're just copying Charlie Watts. Charlie Watts was himself. Nobody else played like him. And Bill Ward, not a lot of guys played like him. He had a very unorthodox way of playing. So you had to adjust to that, and you had to pick up on that and go there. So, and I've always tried to do that. That was just another level of that.
yeah, and it's so great to see that you were able to pick up on those moments and really being able to pull that off and help bring Black Sabbath to its end, and really being able to give it the polish and the live drumming attention that it deserved. And it's great to see that you do bring that to every band that you're a part of. And whether you're able to replicate your own beats, whether you're trying to follow someone's other's path, it's about bringing that live show together. And again, it's so great to see that you are bringing that to the Dead Daisies, and I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with that and everything that you got going on in the future too, because like you said, you never know what's going to happen, and I'm excited to see where you're going to be going from here on out.
Hey, thanks. I think I'll stick with it for a while.
So
Thanks
cool.
so much. Thanks so much for taking the time, Josh. Nice speaking to you. And
Oh,
where you call from? Where are you at?
I'm in Minnesota.
Oh, okay, cool, buddy. Which city?
I'm in Burnsville, Minnesota, just about 20 minutes south of Minneapolis.
Okay, it's gonna get nice and cold there coming up pretty soon, huh?
Absolutely.
All right, Josh. You stay warm then when that winter comes, and maybe we'll see you around. I appreciate it.
Oh, not a problem. Again, thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you. Bye bye.
I know.